Okay, so here we go with another Mego unboxing, and this is Deathstroke. Nice piece of artwork there. Very cool. I think that one comes straight from the comic books. There we go, Deathstroke. I like the packaging on this one. This one's got some good packaging. Like, a lot of these modern style Mego figures, the packaging can be a little bland, and it's not Mego's fault. It's DC's fault because they insist on them like very strictly adhering to this style guide kind of thing, which is why you wind up with like a Superman action figure that's in a package that's colored like Superman in those colors, and it's like you need something where the character pops on the package. So here we got this guy in blue and orange, and he's mostly on a gray background, so that pops. But if it was in like an orange background or a blue background, you'd lose parts of the figure just looking at it. So yeah, thankfully, DC, I guess, is starting to be a little more lenient as to what Mego can do with an action figure package, and I highly support this. Of course, obviously, the 50th anniversary figures are in reproductions of those 50th anniversary boxes, or the original vintage Mego boxes. What I meant to say. So we do have like some more variation in the packaging now. So that's a good thing. Anyway, we got a sticker here that says it's the 40th anniversary of Diamond Comics Distributors PX Previews Exclusive, limited to 5,000. Oh man, limited to 5,000. Like maybe I shouldn't open this. Of course, I'm gonna open it. So it's for 17 plus, which I think is strange because I had Migos when I was 3. And then we've got the bio of Marty Abrams on the back here, which I've read several times at this point, so we won't do it here. So we have the credits. Some Migos have credits on them, but I do not see credits on this one. So I have no idea who sculpted this head or who designed the outfit. So that's unfortunate. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and open them up. Nice thick card, like what I'm used to from Mego. They use some high quality cardboard. There we go. And then we have Deathstroke. And I do believe this is going to be one of the shorter figures. I don't think they'd switched over to the taller body yet. Here I've got Robin, so we can compare. And of course, Robin is probably the most appropriate figure we can use because he's the arch enemy of Deathstroke. I don't care if the TV show tried to tell us it was Green Arrow, whatever you want to call him, the Hood. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, he was originally the arch enemy of the Teen Titans and specifically Dick Grayson. So, and then here we have the sword that he comes with. And sharp-eyed viewers will recognize this as the same sword that came with the Mego Snake Eyes figure. It's that distinctive sword that was designed for the 1985 figure. The 1985 Snake Eyes figure had a 3 3/4 inch scale version of this. So, I wouldn't care if they recycled. Oh, he came right out. I wouldn't be saying anything if they recycled Storm Shadow Sword. I might say, oh, this is Storm Shadow Sword again. But it's funny to me that Snake Eyes has such a distinctive sword and they still decided to reuse it. But it's a good sword, so I'm not going to complain. So there's the figure out of the package. He just kind of fell right out of there. Didn't have any rubber bands or anything holding him in. The weapons are more held in there because they've got tape holding him. But Deathstroke himself, nothing. Just came right out. No rubber bands, no twist ties. I like that. I like it when an action figure comes straight out of the package. And this should be, I don't have one to compare, but this should be the same M16 that came with Planet of the Apes. I believe it was originally designed for the Action Jackson line, and they recycled it for Planet of the Apes. And it's got like a string on there so you can strap it to his chest. And that's all the accessories that this guy has, which, is a good amount of accessories. Well, it's not quite all the accessories that he has, is it? Because he's also got a knife and a pistol. So let's go ahead and have a look at those. And those actually are held into the holster and the sheath with rubber bands. And these would be the same pistol and knife that came with Snake Eyes. See if maybe I can get that to focus a little bit better. And again, this is kind of like a scaled up version of what you would think of as a 3 3/4 inch GI Joe pistol from the 80s. I don't know if it's anything specific, but it is missing a trigger guard, which most 80s GI Joe pistols did not have a trigger guard. Some did, but most didn't. See if I can get this rubber band off of the holster. There we go. And it fits in there rather snugly, so we're not gonna have to worry about that falling out or anything like that. And then the knife, that's not a knife. Now that's a knife. There we go. So, and again, same knife that came with Snake Eyes. And I believe like those weapons were designed for that figure. They might not have been exclusively designed for Snake Eyes. It might have been the sort of thing where they realized going into it, well, we're going to need these same things for Deathstroke, and planned ahead that would be the ones that they would reuse. And same with this bandolier, because in the comics, Deathstroke has a very similar bandolier to that, and that is indeed the Snake Eyes bandolier again. And we can see that he's got like this thing on his back, which is where Snake Eyes' backpack would go, but he doesn't have a backpack. Now you might want to try to put your sword in there, but you're going to find that like it's closed off at the bottom, so the sword's not going to go all the way through. But what I think I'm going to do is cut a little slit here, and then the sword should actually fit into that, and that'll give me a nice little sword sheath. So I think that's what I'm going to do. His joints are really stiff, so I'm being really careful with this because I do not want to break the joints. There we go. Never force the joints. Always, gently coax them until they come into the position you want. And if it's giving you too hard of a time, use a hair dryer or dip it in some warm water, boiling water, whatever you got to do. So articulation is on point. This is the new Mego body. So he is the bandless Mego body. So he does have the new and improved articulation. We got swivels at the elbows that were not there originally. And of course, his elbows bend up about 90 degrees. Since this is the older, newer Mego body, his knee bends at 90 degrees. But that does not mean that it's the superior one, because as we can see, he is shorter than Robin. Robin towers over him. And this is a Golden Age Robin with the cowlicks. So, man, it's a shame that body turned out so short, because this is a great figure otherwise. Like, I really like a lot of the details of this uniform. This is all kind of screen printed on here. So you can see it's got like a chainmail pattern on the legs and at the abdominals and at the elbows of the suit, just like in the comic book. This is ridiculously accurate to the comic book. My one complaint is that they didn't go the extra mile and give him an actual molded utility belt. He's just kind of got the belt screen printed onto the uniform, and it just kind of looks like a standard Superman belt. Now, I don't know. Like, I think that maybe he might have had a plain belt in some appearances in the comics, but I more think of him as having like one of those belts with like the pouches and everything on it. So I'm probably going to wind up making him a belt myself, so that he can have one. But it's a little disappointing that he doesn't have one. Speaking of recycling parts, they could have just used the belt that came on this Batman figure, so they wouldn't even have to necessarily even make a new belt. They could have just taken this kind of pouch utility belt and molded that in orange, and voila, there's you a Deathstroke belt. So I guess if you want to get an extra one of these belts and paint it to match the color scheme of this, you could paint it orange, or paint it brown, like how the belt is on the actual figure, and that can give you a proper Deathstroke belt if you don't have the skills or the wherewithal to actually make one yourself. So, but I do. I'm probably gonna wind up 3D printing something. And he does have the ties on the back of the mask, like the character has in the comics, but they are sculpted onto the back of the neck. And when I say sculpted onto the back of the neck, I mean like literally there's barely any sort of like volume there versus versus the way that the neck actually goes. I think it probably would have been better if they'd have like had it be like the ties be kind of flared out a little bit more. It's nice that they put them on there, but I think they probably could have made them a little less subtle. You know what I mean? So, oh man, these wrist joints are like really tight. Oh, he does have hands that are molded in orange that match the rest of his uniform. Even though most of his uniform is screen printed, they did go the extra mile as far as the gloves go, and that is actually a separate piece of fabric that looks like it's glued on there. So rather than just screen print the gloves on the way they did, and they could have done that very easily, like how they did the trunks. The orange matches up really well, by the way. But no, they decided to actually like take it a step further and put a separate piece of fabric on there. And it's sewed into the suit, obviously, like the way that like they probably sewed it. It looks like to me they sewed it here at the shoulders all the way down, and then stuck the orange on there, and then sewed up the rest of the suit. So, but like I said, they didn't have to do that. That was a little bit of an extra feature, I guess you could say. Like they took it a step further than they really needed to. So good on Mego for that. All right, since he does have a wealth of accessories, and for especially for Mego, this is a lot of accessories to give a figure. I want to give a little bit of attention to the accessories. So let's start off with this pistol. And I'd seen a few reviews of some of the newer figures where they talk about how small the hands are, and they have a hard time getting the accessories into their hands. But I actually did not have a hard time with that. I was able to get that pistol right into his hand. So, maybe people are being a little more ginger with this kind of stuff than they really need to because they're afraid of breakage. But it's a soft enough, pliable enough plastic, you can kind of force it in there. And the weapons are slightly less pliable. So it's not like you have the problem with a lot of these McFarlane accessories where like you're trying to fit this fluby knife into this really, rigid hand. That went in there really well. That looks cool with the knife. Let me turn that around for your angle. So I want to talk a little bit more about this head sculpt while I'm thinking about it, and more sort of the way they painted the head, which I think is very interesting. Is usually when you see Deathstroke in action figure form, they just paint this side of his head solid black. And of course, that's as I interpret it in the comic books. I always think of it as being like, a mask that's black on one side and orange on the other. But for whatever reason with this one, they decided to paint it blue. But not only did they paint it blue, they still painted in where the eye socket would be in black. And I think that looks really cool. I like it. It gives a little more depth and a little more texture to the figure. So kudos to them on that. And he does have over here where like sometimes in the comics they draw that as being like an all whited out eye, like Spider-Man, and you can see like where I get that Spider-Man comparison from with the black around the eyes. But they did go ahead and paint in the flesh around the eyes and the pupil and everything like that. So they did a good job with it. So go ahead and get the knife out of his hand again, put that back in its sheath. And then we'll move on to the other two accessories and see how those look. And I think I'm going to do the sword first because, like, once I put that N16 in his hand, I think that's going to stretch it out a little bit more. So that's probably how I'm going to wind up displaying him with the sword. So, And like I said, I'm pretty sure once I put this M16 in here, it's got a much thicker handle. It's going to wind up, move the camera on a little bit. It's going to wind up kind of stretching out the hand a little bit, and then he might not hold that sword as well. But I'm pretty sure once I apply some heat to it, that'll fix it. So yeah, there he is with the machine gun. Looks very cool. This M16, the classic Action Jackson / Planet of the Apes M16, and with the new and improved articulation that the new Mego bodies provide, I can get him where he's holding the rifle in a two-handed grip. So that looks really cool. So I'm pretty happy with how this Deathstroke figure turned out. He's got a lot of great accessories. Yeah, a lot of them are recycled from Snake Eyes. But the thing is, Deathstroke has a lot of accessories that are similar to Snake Eyes. So it makes sense to, to share those accessories. If you've already got a bandolier and, pistols to strap at the hip and knives to strap at the hip, and, we've already got this cool looking sword. Honestly, like the sword is the one thing where I kind of feel like, they might have been better off just using the plain katana that came with Storm Shadow, because if we're being real about it, that Snake Eyes' sword, it just 100% is the sword that we associate with the G.I. Joe character. But that having been said, it's still a cool looking sword, and I don't mind that he has it. So, but it's kind of a little bit of a gray area, and I can't imagine Hasbro would be too thrilled. The articulation is good. Unfortunately, since it is the earlier take, the first batch of the newer bodies, he is a little short in stature. I didn't really mind Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow being that short, because, maybe they are shorter characters. I don't know. But Deathstroke should definitely be a taller guy. And he should at least be taller than Dick Grayson. So I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get another 50th anniversary Robin and swap out the bodies. That way I can have a shorter Robin and a taller Deathstroke. And I think that would be really cool. But like you can see, like look at where their shoulders line up. That's just kind of, poor little guy. But we'll fix that. Don't worry about that. I wonder how well the uniform would fit onto the taller body. If maybe I'd have to make some adjustments, like probably maybe cut out the toe, maybe add a little more fabric on there, so that way it doesn't, fit him too tightly. But he's a really impressive looking figure. Like, once the only real problem with the figure is the height, and if you can fix that and put him on a taller body, like, the uniform is great. The head sculpt is great. The paint applications on the head sculpt are great. You've got a plethora of awesome accessories that, you don't get that many accessories on Mego generally. And it's really cool that they went the extra mile with this guy. But then again, how are you going to do Deathstroke? He's got to at least have some kind of rifle and some kind of sword. But then they went the extra mile and gave him the knife and the pistol, and he's just really cool and imposing looking, even if he is a little on the short side. So I think that's pretty much it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Let me know what you think about this character. Let me know what you think about this figure. What are some of your favorite figures of Deathstroke? He's a guy who's had a lot of them at this point. I'm a big fan of the DC Universe Classics Deathstroke figure. I felt like that was one where they nailed it. And this one is really cool. So this is probably one of the better Mego superhero figures that I've had so far. So that's it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.